Good morning. Okay, so this is June the 14th, 2025. And I've cast a horoscope for 10 minutes ago. And this is sort of in honor of the President of the United States. As Marilyn Monroe said, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." Now, notice a very interesting thing. Of course, the sun would be at its solar return sometime today. Now, as it is in Alliance, Ohio, where I am, because I'm more or less casting this horary on the theory that the president's birthday is going to affect me. So it's my horary in my time and my place. But you can't help but noticing that Mars is in 28 of Leo, and that's conjunct Donald Trump's ascendant. Actually, Donald Trump's ascendant is in 29 degrees, 59 minutes of Leo, right at the edge, just a cut hairs from zero Virgo. And the star Regulus, through most of my lifetime has been at 28, 29 of Leo, but now it has since moved into Virgo. Now, I've known many people, principally one family, where three people had 28 degrees of Leo rising. So I heard a lot about Leo rising and the fixed star Regulus. Interestingly, I ran for Congress once and was soundly thrashed by the incumbent, whose name was Ralph Regula. And we took a look at Ralph Regula's chart one day, and sure enough, he had Regulus rising. Oh, it was a wonderful chart. And I had to say to myself, man, if I had his chart, I'd be congressman. So anyway, fixed star Regulus. Now, Donald Trump has that too. And what that does, fixed star Regulus, Regulus is the king. So that kind of makes you, a king amongst your peers. And something conjunct fixed star Regulus. And if you have the Ascendant conjunct Regulus, wow, okay, you're going to have automatic royalty, you might say. Now, here's the question. This is a very interesting configuration where Trump has, and it's not pictured, but you can get Trump's horoscope, anywhere. 29 degrees, 59. In other words, just not quite Virgo, and that's interesting. Actually, Trump has a mild manner. He talks calmly. He's never strident. He brags a lot, but he's not strident. He has a mild, he's telling you matter-of-factly, oh yeah, it rained yesterday, and my parade is going to be the biggest thing that, in fact, you can see him out there. This is the biggest parade ever in the history of Washington, D.C., and 2 + 2 = 4. He tells you everything with total equanimity, which kind of brings that Virgo into it somehow, see? Now, one book I read once on the subject of astrology said a sign is at its strongest at 0 degrees, and then it progressively gets weaker as you go to 28, 29. But I don't know how you'd fit that into the President Donald. because he has presumably the weakest degree and the weakest amount of Leo there, of bluster. He has no bluster. He acts so. That's a question that puzzles me about Donald Trump. But there's no question he's royalty, and that's the fixed star Regulus. We'll bring that. And interestingly, though, on this solar return today, and wherever his solar return actually is, look, somebody else will tell you. But I'm looking at Mars on the Ascendant. Now look at how it's actually square the planet Uranus, which is in 2852 of Taurus. And Mars here is 2831 of Leo. But, within the next few days, it will cross the Ascendant of the President of the United States. And that square from Uranus will be there, although it's more exact now than it will be later. So, this is interesting, considering right now the big issue of the day is Israel's attack on Iran. And the question is, will the United States get involved in that war? And okay, my guess, prediction number one. The answer is yes, the United States will, or Donald Trump will suddenly, as the planet Uranus, get involved in the war, get involved in hostilities. That's the planet Mars on his ascendant. So he'll be involved in hostilities. Now, we saw other hostilities in the last few weeks where, Trump and his buddy Elon Musk had words, and there'd be a breaking up. Time will tell. So that's but I attribute that to the Mars approaching, because Mars is moving a little less than a degree a day, but it's been 24, 25, 26, 27. It's inching up on the exact, and then as it passes into Virgo, that's a whole nother story. But it will have affected the president, and by extension, it will have affected the world, and the people in the United States, but probably the people in the whole world. Now, this Horary points to something very interesting. We've had Mars. We've had the planet Pluto shown down here in 3 of Aquarius, opposite the Uranian astrology planet, this little thing that looks like Mars up in the 11th house, except that it has a triangle instead of a circle. That's Vulcanus. And Vulcanus is kind of a super Mars. Super Mars opposite Pluto, you're going to have fireworks. Now, when the Pope died a month or two ago, we had actual Mars conjunct Vulcanus opposite Pluto. And I think at that time we had the moon conjunct Pluto too. And that was an omen for all the world that things were going to change, because the moon represented all the people in the world, all the children of the world. And, subsequently to that, we have a new pope now, an American pope. And people, I don't, but people tend to underestimate the importance of the Pope. You know, in other words, the Pope has more followers than the President of the United States. I'm not sure if he collects more taxes or not. And nobody in the Vatican accounting department is telling, I guess. But anyway, that's a vastly underrated thing. You know, now Pope Francis, the guy that just died, he was against that genocide in Gaza. And he made a phone call to his Catholic Palestinians every day, saying, "How are you? How's it hanging?" You know, and so he was very interested in that, and he spoke out against the genocide in Gaza. And as far as I know, people in the United States just says, "Shut up, shut up, old man. You know, this is not your game." Now the question is, whose game is it? And I want to talk a little bit about that. And this is where I deviate from the horoscope, because I'm bringing my own prejudices into it, and so on and so forth. By the way, every astrologer does. So if you're going to have one astrologer, it would probably be wise to get a second opinion from another astrologer, because all astrologers have built-in biases. Depending on their own charts, they're going to see the world differently. And I would venture to say, you know, both astrologers could be right. I mean, what they say could be true, except as they're looking at it through a different lens, depending on, you know, what sign they're born in, and so on. So, but if you want to pretend that astrology is totally objective, you're wrong. It's astrology is as much an ink blot test as it is an exact science. That's my opinion. You know. And also, I'm happy to be 30% right. Astrologers that claim they're 90% right. Well, okay, well, they must be better than I am then. The next thing is, so now bringing my prejudices right to the forefront. I've been listening to a guy on the internet named Pepe Escobar, or they say Pepe Escobar. But he's a journalist from Brazil. He's 75 years old, looks a little younger, and he's quite smart and very down to earth. But what he was saying about, because the big issue today is Israel attacking Iran. And is the United States going to get involved and so on? And Escobar looks at this war with Iran. He would use words like, "Oh, this is really the United States and its proxies fighting." Well, Iran and its proxies, maybe. But what the United States is really after is they want to soften up Iran. They want to soften up Russia. And they want to soften up China. Because what the United States is really afraid of, this is what the game really is BRICS, BRICS. Brazil, Russia, Iran, or is it India? BRIC, China, S, South Africa. And since um, BRICS might very well be the new United Nations, and the United States would be opposed to that, and the bankers would be opposed to that, the Western bankers, because one of the things that the BRICS is thinking about is not using the dollar as the reserve currency. And of course, the bankers know more about that than I do. But the general idea is if you're the United States and everybody's using dollars as the way they denominate their transactions, that gives the dollar more power, and it leads to a lot of free money and cheaper prices for Americans. And but BRICS, so that's one thing the bankers would be alarmed at BRICS. BRICS has not set up its own currency yet, and it may not. Let's say you're Russia dealing with China, you might denominate the transaction in rubles or in the Chinese currency. What is that? Yuans, but not necessarily in dollars anymore. So that gives the United States less clout. And according to Pepe Escobar, the real game is the, what did he call that? The Central Asian Axis. No, that's not what he called it. But the point is that Central Asia is opening up the corridor between Russia and China, and passing through India, passing through Iran. The corridor between the East and Russia and up towards the North Pole is the up-and-coming thing. It's the event, according to Escobar, of the 21st century, the opening up of BRICS and that trade corridor. And what that's going to mean is that those people will become economically more powerful, and then you have another concept of the multipolar world. Now, back, let's say 1950, we had Russia and the United States were the two main superpowers. And that was a bipolar world, you might say, in more ways than one. Then, with the fall of the Soviet Union, for a brief time, 10 or 20 years, the United States was the key and the only player, the world's only superpower. But as the wheel of fortune rolls around, now we have emerging great powers, such as China, and also India, and also Russia, re-emerging as great powers that may someday be superpowers and may someday be the equal of the United States. Well, I think one of the rules of competition is if in a zero-sum game, which the world is not a zero-sum game, but if you get more, I get less. And for a country which wants to be preeminent, they worry about things like that. If you get more, I get less. So the fact that BRICS is setting up what might be a multipolar world, there might be 3, 4, 5 superpowers. George Orwell called them Eurasia, East Asia, and Oceania. He foresaw that in his book 1984. But Eurasia is, probably pretty much what you think it is, Russia. And half of Western Europe. Oceania is England and the United States, probably including Greenland, and East Asia would be China, and so on. Now, okay, here's an original thought. Well, it's not original. I heard it. I heard somebody say it on the internet last night. But the United States now going to be involved in with Iran because they would really like to break Iran down and destabilize it, because that'll destabilize this new Central Asian corridor and so on. It will make petroleum prices to China harder. And China needs petroleum from Iran and from other people in the Mideast. But anyway, as the United States, according to Escobar, which I buy into it, goes about destabilizing regimes in BRICS because it doesn't want BRICS to succeed. And that's an open question if BRICS will succeed or not. But I mean, I personally I have never heard this, but if BRICS becomes the new United Nations, the United States won't have a veto anymore. They're not in BRICS. And how many years would it take for BRICS to supplant the United Nations as the world's volunteer governing body? Don't know. And one more thing, and then I'm out of here. This might be a good time for China. And I heard this. I'm just repeating. Well, something some other crackpot said. China could attack Taiwan right now. See? This might be a good time for them to make their move, while the United States is tied up in this Iran war, because the United States they're emotionally tied to protecting Israel, and therefore the United States is going to spend a great deal of its emotional energy on Israel and therefore Iran, and they want to get to China later. But if China would make its move now, while the United States is, they're still fighting in Ukraine, and they're still fighting in the Middle East now, Israel, Iran. Not that many actual live soldiers of Americans are there yet. I think they have advisors and spies, and that's a big issue, how many Americans are there. But it's very easy to see the American presence, although none of our soldiers are being killed right now. So, but anyway, China might make its move. So, happy birthday, Mr. President. You're going to be a busy boy, and I think you're going to get into that war suddenly and unexpectedly. Well, because the Mars on your Ascendant squaring Uranus, which means sudden actions. And as is shown in the horoscope here, with the Moon conjunct Pluto opposite Vulcanus, this is a huge power play for affecting all the peoples of the world. So, this is Bill Kennick saying, right if you get work. Thank you.